8 rats were put into a perfect world. There were 4 males and 4 females. They had unlimited food and unlimited water, with no disease and no predators. There was no threat at all. 5 years later, each and every one of them died, and none of the deaths could be explained by a medical diagnosis from a veterinarian. That was Universe 25, the most disturbing experiment ever carried out on a society. In 1968, an American scientist named John Calhoun built something he called a mouse paradise. Soft nesting material was placed at every corner, the temperature was kept completely stable, and the enclosure was cleaned by hand on a schedule. They were the healthiest specimens from the breeding colony of the National Institutes of Health. Calhoun was an ethologist, and throughout his career, he was obsessed with one question: what happens to a society when nothing feels difficult anymore? By the time he reached this experiment, he had been chasing the answer for 2 decades. He had built earlier versions in a quarter-acre patch of forest in Maryland, in barn-like cages, and in laboratory rooms, 24 times in total. In each one, he created a slightly different paradise for rats or mice, without scarcity, without predators, and without any way out. In every single one, he saw the same pattern repeat. The population exploded, violence increased, mating behavior became distorted and intensely hyperactive, and then everything collapsed into apathy until the colony died. The 25th experiment was meant to be the most perfect, a final, clean version whose answer could not be disputed. He set up Universe 25 in a federal research laboratory in Maryland, a square enclosure 9 feet on a side, with stacked apartments along each wall, and reached by mesh tunnels from floor to ceiling. Calhoun called them walk-up apartments. Each unit was fed through hoppers that were never empty and water bottles that were never dry. He calculated that the area was comfortable for around 3,800 rats, an estimate it would never come close to. On the first day, he placed 8 founders and then closed the cage. In the first 104 days, almost nothing happened. The rats explored, learned the layout, and decided who would sleep where. Then, the first breeding pair produced offspring, and the population began to multiply. Every 55 days it doubled. On day 315, more than 600 animals lived together. They crowded the ramps, slept in heaps, and fought over nesting space in the upper parts of the apartments. Then came the moment when everything started to unravel. In a normal rodent colony, when the population grows beyond what the territory can hold, the excess animals leave. They migrate to find new land somewhere else. But in Universe 25, there was no new land. Young males without a place and without tasks to carry out began to drift into the middle of the enclosure, forming sluggish clusters of bodies. Calhoun would stand over the pen for hours, watching them do nothing. They had no fights to win, no females to pursue, and nothing to protect. They remained healthy and well cared for, fed and watered properly, but they had absolutely no job to do. When one was attacked by another rat, it didn't retaliate. It would lie down to absorb the injury, then stand up, walk a few feet, and lie down again. But not all the males became calm. At the same time, a second group emerged at the opposite end of the spectrum. They were panicked, indiscriminate, and moved across the enclosure faster than any other rats. They forced themselves into nests that other males were defending, crossing rituals of courtship that other rats still followed. They refused to be intimidated, even by violence from dominant males. In the worst pockets, a behavior appeared that had never been produced by any functioning rat society. The females responded by withdrawing. Those who couldn't find a place in the social order climbed into the highest apartments and lived alone, then stopped interacting with males and stopped reproducing. Calhoun also noticed something he called behavioral sync. Even though food was available equally everywhere, the rats began to compulsively gather around only a few feeders. They didn't want to eat alone. The presence of other rats attached itself to their eating instinct. Even when other feeders were full, once their chosen feeder sites were drained, they wouldn't use the empty ones, no matter how full the rest were. The crowding worsened around a small number of stations, while large parts of the cage were almost untouched. After that, the breeding adults still trying to raise their young began to fail in even darker ways. Maintaining nests in an environment like that required constant labor. The males who originally claimed territory grew tired, patrols stopped, and they stopped protecting their families. In the end, the parents had to defend the nest while also nursing. They turned on their own offspring. They left babies scattered across the enclosure. Some forgot which infants belonged to them, while others didn't recognize the young as theirs at all. In the worst areas, mothers started eating their own children. In some parts of the colony, fewer than 1 out of 20 newborns survived to weaning. Calhoun later wrote that at this point, the colony's social fabric was effectively dead. Bodies were still alive, but the structure that bound them together as a species no longer existed. The surviving babies were raised by mothers who barely cared whether the offspring lived. They had no example of what a functioning life was like inside that place. As they grew, they behaved like nothing Calhoun had ever seen before. The males of the next generation had never fought, never attempted to mate, and didn't perform any social activity at all. They ate, slept, and obsessively groomed themselves. Their fur stayed perfect because they never got into a real fight. They moved through the colony as if no other rats were there. Calhoun called them the beautiful ones. Externally, they appeared to be the healthiest rats in the entire colony, but functionally, they were dead, never trying to reproduce, unable to socialize, their nervous systems developing in a world where all social roles had already been filled by others, and eventually, they opted out of the species. On day 560, the population peaked at 2,200 rats and would never rise higher. The last pregnancy that succeeded occurred on day 920. After that, no new rats were born. The colony kept aging. The beautiful ones continued grooming. The females who had been isolated remained high up in the apartments, withdrawn and unchanging. Violence persisted in pointless pockets. One by one, the rats died of old age, with no replacements coming from behind. On May 23, 1973, the last rat in Universe 25 died, 4 years and 10 months after Calhoun had closed the cage. Calhoun wrote that the rats died twice. The first death was a death of spirit, and the second death was a death of body. And the first death came years before the second. When his paper was published, the world immediately read the easiest conclusion. Comfort kills, abundance kills, and the idea that living without struggle is a self-destructive way to live. The image of the beautiful ones, perfect yet quietly extinct, became one of the most cited metaphors of the late 20th century. It was pointed to by urban planners, religious leaders, and politicians from every side of a wide range of issues. But that reading was not what Calhoun actually said. His original conclusion, written in his own words, stated that for animals as complex as humans, a similar collapse was not just possible, it was logical. If the number of individuals capable of filling meaningful roles far exceeds the number of roles available, then only violence and disorder can result. The killer was not comfort. What was missing was meaningful roles. When the population grew faster than the colony could offer meaningful roles, the rats without a place stopped functioning. The fighters had nobody to fight, the nest-guarding parents defended nests that no one needed defended, and the young grew up without anything to inherit from the system. The structure that gave each rat a reason to participate in the species simply evaporated. Food never ran out. Water never ran out. What ran out was something that had never even been thought of as something to put into the paradise in the first place. Comfort did not kill them. Comfort only removed the friction that made living feel like something alive. And there was a part that was almost never quoted. Calhoun himself was not a doomer. The rest of his career was spent not predicting collapse, but trying to prevent it. He kept building new universes, changing variables, and looking for one single thing he could insert back into paradise so the experiment would keep working. He believed it could be done, and he believes humans could choose differently from the rats. He wrote that when physical space shrinks, the only way forward is to expand into conceptual space, into ideas, into networks, into building work for roles that had never existed before. He called it ideational generativity, a long phrase for a simple idea. The way out is to keep creating new reasons to be here. Yet the experiment remains sitting there as data, a perfectly designed paradise, 8 rats, 5 years, and total extinction, with a cause of death that no toxicology report could ever name. Rats have no choice. We do. What happens next is up to us.